Let's go to John Hinderaker now, our great friend over there in Minnesota. John, terrific day, as far as we can see it, but you'll give us the reality, what's happening, your analysis, John, on can Trump pull this off? Can the regime be defanged? Obviously, they've beheaded the snake, but what about all those other guys with arms and weapons and soldiers and so on, John?
Well, Rowan, let me just start by saying that we have owed these people for a long time. We should have done this a long time ago, going back to 1979 and everything that has happened since. Regime change should be our only goal in Iran, and Donald Trump obviously realizes that. So far, the mission is going extraordinarily well. Both American and Israeli sources say they expect it to continue for probably several weeks. And my only reservation, Rowan, is that it is very difficult to bring about regime change without having soldiers on the ground, which we're not going to have. Whether bombing alone can bring about regime change, I guess we're going to have to wait to see.
Well, John, that population is particularly motivated for regime change, so maybe that's why they think they can pull this off without sending troops on the ground. But just this action alone is going to possibly cost Donald Trump dearly and the Republicans dearly in an election year. How do you see the domestic reaction to this? Because the attacks have been unhinged in the last few hours. Claims he's starting World War III, that he's betrayed his entire premise of being America first and a president for peace. How do you think he will handle that in America?
Rita, the attacks are always unhinged, and they're coming from the people who have always hated Donald Trump. They're coming from the Democrats and this very, very small isolationist wing of the Republican Party, which counts for very little. I think the way it plays out politically depends entirely on how it goes militarily. If there are few or no American casualties, and so far apparently there have been none, if the operation is seen as successful, if we achieve the goal of regime change, and we're seeing peace being brought to the Middle East, that'll be a huge plus in the midterm elections. Obviously, if things don't go well, that will not be a plus.
James.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose nothing succeeds like success, John, but you know, one of the things that I've been fascinated by looking at, and I don't know if we have any of the footage of it here ready to go, but I've seen a number of demonstrations, anti-war, hands-off Iran demonstrations in New York and elsewhere with very professional, very pre-printed signs. Have a look at this here. So they've got these professional pre-printed signs all ready to go. Hands off Iran, no war for Iran, you know, almost like no blood for oil in the old days. U.S. aid is gone, so who is paying for this stuff?
James, there are organizations, and some of them are literally communist organizations that have a lot of money behind them from rich left-wingers. There are billionaire left-wingers who are bitterly anti-American. And then, of course, the suspicion always is there Chinese money behind these organizations? Is there Russian money behind these organizations? They are very shadowy, and I would be surprised if there isn't some of that funding going on.
Now, talking of China, John, it's pretty clear to me, and James was talking about it earlier, that this 4D chess, this game that Donald Trump is playing, the end goal is not even the regime change. That's on the way. That's part of it. The end goal is to stop China, to bring China to heel, to reestablish American dominance of the globe, with China as greatly reduced and Russia greatly reduced. He did Venezuela. He chopped off the now the Iranian support to the Chinese and to the Russians. Putin, we're hearing, might be making noises about maybe doing some kind of deal. We know that China won't be happy with this. What's your view? Is this a 4D game of chess, and is that the goal, China?
I think it's a major goal, Rowan. I think you're absolutely right about that. I would add Cuba to your list.
Right.
Trump has kicked the Russians and Chinese out of the Western Hemisphere. The Cuban regime is tottering. It's going to fall before long. And in any event, they are not going to be a staging ground for the Chinese anymore, nor is Venezuela and Iran. And I think Trump is systematically stripping the Chinese of their allies and their proxies around the world. And that's a great thing for world peace. I mean, if we don't have the Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians fomenting violence in the Middle East, I mean, think how much better a place the world is going to be.
John, you mentioned Cuba. Is Cuba next? Will Cuba be liberated in this term?
I think so, Rita. But you know, it's amazing how long an unpopular tyranny can hang on as long as it controls the army. And that's what worries me about Iran, too. I mean, by rights, the communist dictatorship in Cuba should have been gone decades ago. And yet they limp along in a state of absolute poverty. But I think the end is in sight. Yes, I think that regime is finally going to fall before Trump's term is over.
And just quickly, John, what does this do to, I guess, we've been discussing amongst ourselves, my opinion is that this damages J.D. Vance and pushes Marco Rubio firmly in front, because J.D. Vance has been talking a lot about, no more forever wars and holding back, arguably, from what we know, involvement a few weeks ago in Iran. Does this put Rubio right at the forefront now in Trump's kind of succession plan?
I don't know. I mean, a lot depends, Rowan, on how things play out over the next couple of years, right? Is Trump's foreign policy seen as being massively successful, or are the isolationists saying, I told you so? Trump himself has not picked a successor. You know, he's not saying I want JD or I want Marco. He praises both of them effusively. For what it's worth, I'm a Marco Rubio guy, as you may remember. I would like nothing more than to see Marco at the top of the ticket in 2028.
I'm with you on that one, John. Lots more to chat about, but we'll leave it there.